look at your various melee weapons and get an idea of what you should prioritize based on your character's scaling. As for your spells, this is more informational. This was all the same stuff in Elden Ring, so this more just tells you, like, hey, you can activate and do a follow-up on this ability. Or, hey, this costs this much to activate, and then the follow-up costs this much. Talking about the guide, the one thing I want to talk about the guide, and I would recommend you read through all of this stuff, but what I want to talk about in particular are these. Map key locations. So when you pull up the map, we can end up pressing Y to bring up the detailed view, which I do 100% of the time. And I want to talk about the key locations here, because this is important for guiding your runs. So first up, we have forts. Forts are typically going to have a boss up at the top. There's also going to be a map, which will reveal hidden things nearby. Sometimes it's treasure chests. Sometimes it's shiny beetles. Forts are almost always worth it. Great churches usually have a pretty straightforward boss, and they're good for sacred seals. So if you need seals, that's the place to go. Encampments are usually garrisons. Sometimes they'll be more straightforward. It'll be easy stuff like the fire chariots. Sometimes it's like red main knights. So encampments are a little bit hit or miss. You will frequently find merchants outside of encampments, though, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But I would consider encampments low priority for the most part. Unless you find like the right encampment, I feel like they usually take too much time for how many runes you're going to get out of them. Ruins are usually pretty straightforward. There's typically chests in the underground chambers, but you usually can jump into a ruin, run right up towards the end of it, and kill the boss to get a quick upgrade. So they are great for just fast runes. Tunnel entrances. In tunnels, you will always find a boss which will have a smithing stone, which can get your weapon up to purple quality, assuming it's already blue. Depending on which tunnels. Some tunnels are really fast, like I know the southern tunnel on most maps, I can sprint right in, kill the troll, get my stuff, and I'm in and out in like 3 minutes. There's another tunnel that has Pumpkinhead, and then there's another that has like a bunch of winding areas that I still haven't taken the time to fully explore. But if you're trying to upgrade a weapon, tunnels are your friends. Castles are usually much bigger, and the castle is typically in the center of the map. Great place to farm up a butt ton of runes. You can very easily go from like level 5 all the way up to level 10 in a castle. But it's really going to depend on what has spawned. If it is full of trolls throwing pots, it can be pretty annoying. It's full of the Crucible Knights. I think those are much more valuable, so it just depends what is spawning in the castle at the time. But I wouldn't recommend tackling a castle before level 5. Field bosses range all the way from things like Loretta all the way up to dragons and gargoyles. Depending on the size of the field boss will determine the reward. If it's something like a gargoyle, you're usually going to get a legendary reward. If it's something smaller like a hippo, you're usually going to get a basic reward. So keep in mind what the field boss is. Field bosses are not created equally. They're usually a great source of runes, but something like a gargoyle or a full-size dragon, you're probably going to want to be around level 10 or higher to fight. Whereas if it's something like a hippo or